Welcome all. I hope my voice as well as my video is clear.
Yes, madam.
Yes. Is the audio clear?
Yes, madam.
Yes. So we are pleased to invite Mr. Karmjitsinh Bihola to an insightful session on to innovation development, technology readiness level, commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer, which is organized by the Institution Innovation Council, also called as IIC, at Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning. So, on to this note, I welcome everyone, Karmjitsinh sir also, and all the students who are attending with all the faculties who are attending onto this webinar. This webinar would be an insightful session on to innovation development, technology readiness level, commercialization of lab technologies and tech transfer. It is organized by Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning, and this session will be led by Mr. Karmjitsinh Bihola, which will cover foundational knowledge on technology readiness, which is one of the topic of great relevance for budding innovators and entrepreneurs, which I can see in all of you. To brief about Mr. Bihola, he has done his master's in mechanical engineering from Stevenson's Institute of Technology, New Jersey, US. His area of enterprise are design thinking, creativity and innovation, entrepreneurship, startup and mentoring of growth, product design and development, curriculum design, policy development and implementation in innovation and entrepreneurship, with a few more, that is design research, system thinking and pedagogic innovation. He has a professional experience of 11 years in developing and building innovation and startup ecosystem. Mr. Kamanjit Bihoa is a founder of Innodex Design Notion. I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly. Innodex Design Innovation Services placed in Ahmedabad since August 2020. So let us hear from our expert, Mr. Karmjitsinh Bihola. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And good afternoon to everyone. I hope you all are doing great and keeping yourself healthy. We are approaching towards summer, so keep yourself hydrated and keep extra care of yourself. So now we are getting a little bit hotter in Ahmedabad. I hope Pune is not that much hotter at this moment, right? Okay, so today we are going to talk about various aspects on TRL, commercialization, and tech transfer of the lab developed technology, along with the innovation or keeping the innovation at the center point, right? Keeping the innovation at the center of the talk. So let me share my screen with all of you so that we can directly, yeah, here it is. Okay. I hope my screen is visible and I am audible, loud and clear.
Yes, yes.
Okay,
the
great.
screen also visible and your voice is also clear.
Great. So, thank you very much, Symbiosis International University and Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning for this invitation. And special thanks to Dr. Uttara ma'am and Dr. Velankar, who has introduced me to the center. So today, as we have already knowing that going to talk about innovation development, how to develop the innovation, what is the process of developing an innovation from rough idea to marketable solution, technology readiness level, which is TRL, as we fondly known, and what is the role of TRL in commercialization and tech transfer of the lab technologies, or the technology or innovation that is developed particularly at the university level, at the school level. So I'm keeping this as I'm informed that all of the participants mostly are students and the aspiring entrepreneur startups. So we are keeping it little bit basic to a little bit on of advanced level, but keeping the entire topic at the academia and university discussion level. Right. So with that, let us see certain agenda for the today. First of all, we are going to understand about innovation, differentiate between what is invention and innovation. So innovation development, its process. Uh, we'll also learn about TRL, various aspects of the TRL and its role in tech commercialization. We'll also understand commercialization and tech transfer process, various challenges and bottlenecks for the same. And we are also going to take few key learnings from the session. So I would request all of you just just note down your the learning points, so that at the end we can discuss certain learnings, key learnings collectively, and also kindly put your questions or queries in the chat box. So I mean, in between or maybe at the end of the session, we can take those questions. So already ma'am has introduced myself and my firm. So I am from Innodesk Design Innovation Services. We work in these areas of design thinking, innovation, creativity, entrepreneurship, and emerging tech. And Innodesk is a design driven innovation strategy firm. And we inspired by this design thinking, human centric approach. Now, what is it and why we are inspired? You will get a glimpse of the session. Uh, we are having many reputed and educated mentors on our board. So there are 30-40 mentors who are helping our clients and students and startups. Our goal and mission is to develop this or achieve this Atmanirbhar Bharat dream and establishing NEP 2020 among the academia by nurturing and enhancing the creativity, problem solving, innovation, innovative and entrepreneurial mindset, skills, and attitude among young minds and people, right? Through various flagship programs and hands-on learning modules. So you can always connect with me on my social media, which is Innodesk Zone, which is a common, and this is my number if in case you need it. And this is very brief about myself. So already ma'am has talked about it, so I'll not just going to go into the detail. Before we move on to the main topic, which is commercialization, tech transfer, and TRL, let me just talk about and let us just interact for these aspects of or understanding the basics of entrepreneurship, basics of startup. Uh, of course, with a few pointers. Before we jump into some developing some innovation, converting our ideas or coming up with the idea and converting that idea into an innovation, so moving towards the entrepreneurial journey, we must need to understand what is the basic difference between a business. When I say business, it's a traditional business versus a startup, entrepreneurial journey, entrepreneurial venture. So in the chat box, if it is unable for the participants, can anyone let me know what is the difference between a traditional business versus a startup? What do you think? Anyone? And all kinds of answers are welcome. So there are no right or wrong answers here. So anyone can tell me. Let me just see the chat box if it is unable for the people. Yeah, mostly faculties are here. So can you tell me, guys, what in your way or in your perspective, what is the basic difference between a business, a traditional business, and a startup? Anyone? There are no right or wrong answers. Yeah. Yeah. So okay, let me just go through it. So basically, when we are talking about a traditional business or a business in that perspective, traditional businesses are done in a traditional way. Of course, I'm getting one. Startups are known for innovation and disruption, while traditional business are known for stability and reliability. Very good. Someone has answered that. A good one. So you are into a right track. Yeah, of course. So when we are talking about the startup, when we are talking about the traditional business, they are the stable businesses. They are the known things, right? The demand and needs are known, or market is known to the people, right? So for example, if I'm taking example of I'm running my father's shop or jewelry shop or kirana store, grocery store, or any kind of running a simple manufacturing unit, right? I know the business, I know the process, operation, business model, the demand is known, profit might be known, right? So I'm just running it and making the profit 1%, 2%, 5%, 10%. My goal is to increase the profit by 2, 3%, 5% every quarter, right? So traditional businesses are the fixed processes, stable. You know the market, you know the demand, whereas startups are very innovative. Startups are many a times complex, ambiguous kind of thing, right? You don't know what is the market, how the market will behave towards your solution. And that is why understanding this entire thing, innovation development process, TRL, how to commercialize and how to make the tech transfer legally, is very much important. So if you want to start a startup, if you want to start a business, right, there are some of the prerequisite, right? So whenever you apply for the grant, government grant or a private funding, right, they will ask you certain questions. These are prerequisite for the startup. Are you solving a pain point? The first question they will ask. Are you solving a pain point? Fulfilling a market need? What is the problem that you are solving? What is the need that you are fulfilling? Second, whether your idea is innovative or novel idea, right? Third, do you have any unique value proposition, right? Whether your idea is scalable and impactful. So these are prerequisites that everyone asks you if you are running a startup, if you want to start a startup or consider your venture as a startup, right? Of course, startup is a very initial stage of your business. So eventually the startup needs to convert into a bigger business, right? By validating and making your business model sustainable. But initially it is very ambiguous, it is very iterative experimental model, right? And that is why you always need to keep iterating and pivoting your solution till you know uh, uh, hit the bullseye, or till you go to the market and your solution or your product or service is established into the customer's environment. So that is where these are few prerequisites that you need to keep in mind. Now, what are the stages of entrepreneurial process? How to start a startup kaise karenge, kaun se steps hai, what are the checklist, right? So very first stage is identifying a problem or market need. So you first need to identify the problem or market need, business opportunity, which is we call business opportunity analysis, right? Then you have the thoroughly research your market for understanding the target audience, target the requirement of your audience, and the needs and pain point, right? And also the competitors analysis. Then you develop a solution. After research, you identify the problem, you develop a solution, you develop innovation, you develop value proposition, then you validate that solution, right? Achieving that product market fit, whatever solution product that you have developed, whether it is fitting, whether it is matching with the market need or not, right? So you develop the MVP prototype and achieve the product market fit. Then you create a business plan, business model, create a strategy, operational plan, and other aspects, right? You develop a company, form a company, right? You hire a people if you need, right? Then you acquire the funding. So once you acquire the fund, get the fund, you either launch and then iterate the solution or the product, and then you scale and grow. Sometimes launching happens before the funding also. Sometimes funding comes at the very later stage. So if you have a grant, if you are bootstrapping your startup using your own money and resources, you can launch, you can earn some money, revenue, and to grow and scale, you want a funding, right? VC fund or certain other fundings, right? So it is not required that you follow the same process or in the same sequence. It is not linear, it is not sequential, it is non-linear and iterative process. But these are the common steps through which startups are building their entrepreneurial journey. Now, at every stage, what kind of funding source is required or it is available? Let us see and let us just understand. right? So the very first stage is early stage, pre-seed, जिसको हम बोलते हैं pre-seed startup, where you can get the government grants. You can also support your venture by your own money, right? Which is called bootstrapping. So your own money from savings or friends and family money. Then you have a government grants, right? And crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is you get the funding from the crowd, like the people or your early adopters, some of the people who are believing in your idea, and you source the fund from the crowd. Then we move to the seed stage or startup stage, which is where you get the grants, angel investors, right? Early stage VC. Then we move to the growth stage, mature stage startup, right? Where you get the venture capital, VC funding, private equity, bank, NBFC, and exit stage, right? Where you are having this IPO, right? IPO is your final stage, or maybe dream of many startups, right? To get the exit, you will launch the IPO, right? And also there is a bridge financing, which is called mezzanine fund, which is bridging the gap between growth and exit stage. So to get to the IPO, to go to that level, right, you want some bridge funding, bridge financing, which is normally kind of a interest loan, and which is at a higher 10, 12, 15% of the interest loan, right? So this is where you are having various stages and funding resources, right? Now our TRL, right, technology readiness level, happens from early stage to growth stage, till the part you launch your product, right? You assess your technology and development, right? And the commercialization, the tech transfer normally happen between seed stage to growth stage, where you have developed the prototype and you want to or you have acquired the license or the IP, right, patent, and you want to sell it to someone, transfer it to someone, like leasing to someone, right? And normally commercialization happens in between seed stage and during the growth stage, where you launch the product and commercialize your product and scale the service, scale the innovation. So we always say that innovation is not just about coming up with the new ideas, right? It is not just coming up with the new idea. It is about transforming that ideas, converting those ideas into an impactful solution, right? Innovation is not just coming up with the new idea, because I'm coming up with the new ideas, I mean 10 ideas every day. I'm not getting any solution, I'm not having any innovation, because I'm not converting it, I'm not transferring it. I'm not a maker, implementer, right? So to be an innovator, to be an entrepreneur, you must need to be implementer and maker. So thinking about the idea, coming up with the idea is only the 10% of the success story. 90% is implementation, transforming, right? Making it happen, which is the 90%. And that is why we always say that idea into execution is equal to innovation. Innovation doesn't happen just coming up with the idea, right? 90% effort and hard work required in this execution part, and that is more important. And most of the startup fail during this execution, 90% of that effort, because they are not putting the effort, they are not putting the consistent and persistent effort. Once they fail or something is not going as per their requirement, as per their wish, they are dropping the idea, right? And which is where execution strategy is very much important, and understanding all this aspect is important for this execution part. So what is the prerequisite of innovation? The prerequisite of the innovation is of course intelligence, but more important is creativity, and creativity comes from the curiosity. So Albert Einstein says that I am neither clever nor intelligent nor specially gifted. I am only very, very, very curious. So curiosity and imagination are the basis of creativity and innovation. If you are not curious, you will not become creative. If you are not creative, you will not come up with the innovative ideas or innovation, right? So all these are interlinked, right? And that is why curiosity is very much important. So what is innovation? If we look at the definition, जिसको हम हिंदी में बोलते हैं नव प्रवर्तन और नव परिवर्तन, right? So innovation is a commercial aspect. It is related to the commercial aspect, commercializing your idea, converting your idea, right? So it is a process of translating, transforming, converting right, your idea, rough thought or invention into a product or service which creates value. Here, creating a value is very much important. Many of the time, invention dies in the laboratories or in the research paper because it is not commercialized, it is not creating any value. Maybe time is not right for that particular invention. But if you are converting that invention or new idea into a product or service, marketable product or service, and if you create a value, then and then it would give you the the desired outcome. So that's where the difference between invention and innovation lies in. So invention is novel discovery, right? Like first electric car concept, someone has came up with the first electric car concept, right, which is a novel discovery. Someone has discovered this idea. And innovation is making it viable, right, commercial, market ready, and implemented through a product or service, which is Tesla's commercial electric car or any kind of electric cars into the market right now. Right? So there is a difference between invention and innovation. Inventions many a times are done sometimes accidentally also. जैसे वो एप्पल गिरा और ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स इन्वेंट किया, राइट, सो दैट माइट हैपन. बट वही ग्रेविटेशनल फोर्स को यूज करके बहुत सारे सर्विसेज और प्रोडक्ट में यूज किया जाता है. दैट इज कॉल्ड इनोवेशन. सो इनोवेशन इज कंटिन्यूअस, right? Invention happens once in a while, right? And it may require R&D also. Innovation is converting those concepts. So there are many types of innovation, like product innovation, process innovation, business model innovation. Like Netflix has moved from DVD rental to streaming, online streaming. That is a kind of business model innovation. Uber, or even Airbnb, Oyo, they are like a business model innovation which involves product, process, and service innovation, right? And there is also called social innovation, right, where, for example, solar powered lamp for the rural areas, right? So these are, there are many social entrepreneurs. But even for, so if someone is considering social entrepreneurship, do not merge it with the NGO kind of idea, right? Social entrepreneurship is not NGO, they are different. Social entrepreneurs need to make money, need to innovate, need to make money, and use that money for the social cause, right? So that is different. So the innovation needs to be desirable, feasible, and viable. And this is called DFV framework, right? It is the three lenses of innovation. And when you integrate these three aspects, desirability, feasibility, and viability, we will reach to the sweet spot of the innovation, which is most important for any kind of innovation, any kind of product, I mean, any kind of company or the organization. So if we talk about creativity and innovation as we are discussing, right, using our creativity, we come up with the many ideas. So innovation happens when you come up with multiple idea for a situation, for a problem, right, or for a need. It is not just from problem to solution. It is from problem, you go back to the problem stage, identify the needs and requirement, research it, refine or reframe your problem, then move towards the many ideas, right? Come up with many ideas for solving that problem. So creativity helping us to come up with many ideas, novel ideas, and those ideas will be combined, refined, and converted into the final solution. And this funnel will apply the boundary condition, which are called constraint of your solution, of your innovation. Innovation and the commercialization, or the marketable solution doesn't happen without any constraint. So there are always the constraint. But when you use the creativity, when you are generating the ideas, you don't apply any constraint, you don't consider any constraint, otherwise you will not get many ideas, right? So for a for a problem, you will come up with many ideas using your creativity. Then those creative ideas will be converted into a final innovation, and that innovation needs to be a real, impactful, and commercialized, right? So impact can be anything: ROI, return, monetary benefit, social impact, self satisfaction in many cases, or radical change. So if you look at the innovation development process, is the process of creating refining and bringing those new ideas and products or services to the market for the better cause, for the solving problems and satisfying the market need, right? And this innovation development process or innovation developing product development process is very important and crucial aspects of entrepreneurship uh, and the business growth for uh, keeping them competitive up to the market and meeting the customer needs, which is changing very fast. So drastically changing needs to be met by the innovation early to the early from the competitor's perspective, right? So before the competitor, if you can come up with the innovation which is meeting with your customer needs, then and then we can say that you are achieving that sweet spot for innovation by integrating desirability, feasibility, and viability. So what is this innovation development process? Innovation development process looks something like this, similar to this, right? First, you come up with the many ideas, which is called ideation process, idea generation process. So you generate many ideas, you come up with the many ideas. Then those ideas will be screened, selected, you make the decision, you develop the concept, which is called conceptualization, product development or product realization stage. Very rough concept, early stage. Then you prototype and test, then you further refine, then you go into the detailed product development, technology development, right? Integration of the various components and technology and softwares and hardware products, right? Then you plan a business model planning, right? Then you go to the market, and then you support the post launch, providing a post launch support, right, where you providing a service and other solving the queries, right? So here this product development process or innovation development process, again it is iterative and non-linear, right? So many a times you go to the next step or skip one step, go to the next, and come back again. Right? It is again iterative and non-linear process. But before we generate the idea, before we come up with the new kind of solution or concept, we must need to analyze the need and problems and understand the user needs through the market research. So we need to have the thorough market research, right? Analyze the needs and requirements and understand the gap which is there into the market, either in the existing process and system or in the new kind of development opportunities. So through the market research we identify the user needs, requirement, a real problem, right problem, then we generate the ideas and then we move into the process, right? So that is why it is very much important, and this process, understanding the market requirements, ideation, conceptualization, prototyping, and testing, right, involves the design thinking process, or those steps till the product prototyping and testing is about the design thinking process, right? So it is a human centric and iterative process, but design thinking is not detachable from the implementation. So design thinking needs to lead towards the product launch, right? It is not just prototyping and testing, right? And that's where we help startups to integrate design thinking with the agile and lean methodology to launch their product successfully into the market. So how this innovation process looks like? It looks something like this: uncertainty, right? Initial phases are very uncertain, but when you once you got to that conceptualization part or prototype part, MVP part, it is little bit clear, right? And then innovation goes in a straightforward, having a very clarity and focus. But to get to that clarity and have the focused innovation development stages, you need to understand this TRL, conceptualization, commercialization, and tech transfer process, right? So that is where we are moving towards the understanding the TRL process. So TRL is technology readiness level, right? And it is developed by NASA in 1970 for space exploration technologies, for understanding the various technological development and assessment of the space exploration technologies. So TRL stands for Technology Readiness Level, which is a measurement system which assesses the maturity of the particular technology or maturity level of the particular technology in the development process, right? So it is also helping us to understand and evaluate whether the technology is ready for the implementation or not, whether technology is ready for the, for the launch or not. So it is having a 9 scale, TRL1 being the lowest and TRL9 having the highest level or assessment level. Now, this each level, 1 to 9 TRL level, has some specific criteria, some specific constraint, right? Which help us to understand the technology's performance and the characteristics. And this helping us in a in our project, in our technology project, mostly TRL used in R&D kind of project, right? Where technology development is the important part, and where you are developing certain technology or modifying the technologies, right? Existing technology. So here TRL is very much important. A technology development project or technology project is evaluated against all these, criteria for each level, and we assign the particular TRL rating, like TRL1, or this technology, this development is at TRL5, TRL6, and likewise, right? And this TRL also helps, innovators, researchers, a university or organization, government granting agency, or the investor, having giving them the understanding about the stages of technological development. That if you are applying to certain grant, for example, if you are applying to BIREC and applying for a grant of 50 lakh rupees for developing certain things, they will ask you what TRL level are you at, right? And if you say TRL 4, it is that you are at the proof of concept, or you are at the prototyping level, right? You have developed a prototype in the laboratory, and that is where they will assess and give you the grant, right? So it helps these various stakeholders. So these are the 9 levels of TRL. The first level, that is also called TRL 0. TRL 0 is ideation, idea level, very basic. There is nothing, nothing tangible or nothing fixed thing that you are going to develop, right? You just have rough idea, rough thought, which is a TRL 0, mainly when we are brainstorming certain ideas, right? Then we move to the TRL 1, which is basic principle observed, right? So you observe certain basic principle. It is again, when we are talking about this TRL, it is mainly research and laboratory aspects, research and development aspect. So that is why certain, these uh, terminologies are being used. So basic principle observed, for example, if we are taking the example of electric car or electric car development, electric battery development, right? So EV development. So, for example, basic principle of electric propulsion are observed and reported at TRL1 level. So you have certain basic documentation, basic research findings, right? Then you move to the TRL2, right, where technology concept formulated, right? So you formulate the technology concept, right? For example, electric vehicle. Using that electric propulsion, now we use that electric propulsion into the electric vehicle or any electric components, electric machinery, right? Which is a concept of electric vehicle is formulated. Then TRL3, experimental proof of concept, where you develop the POC, right? So this experimental POC, proof of concept, I had the concept, now I develop the experimental proof of concept, right? In the lab setup, in my lab, right? In not real environment, my lab environment, right? So this TRL 1 to 3 is a part of your research stage, right? It denotes the research stage. Then we move to the development stage, where TRL4, technology validated into the lab, where we develop the battery cell and testing that battery cell in lab environment. Then TRL5, where technology validated in relevant environment, right? So you develop the this thing, validate the battery cells into the controlled environment using the battery pack, right? Then TRL 6, which is a technology demonstrate in a relevant environment, right? So you demonstrate that technology. So you prototype the EV, right, on test track. Then TRL 7, system prototype demonstrated in operational environment. Now we are moving from lab environment or relevant simulated environment to the operational level environment, which is the deployment stage. So TRL 7, 8, and 9 is the deployment stage, right? So you deploy the pilot fleet, right? Then system complete and qualified, where you have the mass production, molds and mass production, and DFMA and everything, right? Testing and acquire certain certifications and permissions, right? And TRL 9 is actual system proven in operational environment, where you go and launch your product. So commercial success, widespread use, and commercial success. So these are the 9 level of TRL, and I have also explained through the example of how from electric propulsion idea or rough thought, how we can convert that rough idea into a commercial success, having the electric vehicle or keeping that electric propulsion into the integrating that electric propulsion into the electric vehicle, EV vehicle, right? So what is the purpose of TRL? Purpose of TRL is very simple, right? It is to provide a consistent measure, right? Assessment to compare the progress of technologies and to facilitate or to make the right kind of decision in the technological development, management, funding, and implementation of entire technology, right? So the very important purpose of TRL is to minimize the risk in the development, right? Develop products that are fit with the market needs, encourage testing and iteration in the real environment, and introduce a reality check in the development process. So these are few purposes of the TRL, where you can minimize the risk. You can ensure that whatever we are developing is fitting with the market need, because we have a market research, we have a competitive analysis, we have gone through the thorough research and the evidences, right? We are testing and iterating multiple times before we moving into the market, and we are having reality checks and putting the the what we can say gates at every point, so that we are not falling back and we are not having that risk of failure, right? So if we talk about the importance of TRL, I have already talked. And when we as a student and startups understand the TRL, it can help us in tracking our progress. So because it is very much important, if you are developing something, if you are doing R&D, or if you are developing innovation, developing your startup idea, it is very much important to understand this TRL concept. And if you understand that, it will help you in tracking your progress. Either you are progressing into right direction or not. What would be the next step, right? How would you mitigate those risks, so you can identify the challenges and bottlenecks very early in the process and address them before it happens, right? Improving communication, you can easily communicate to other stakeholders and your funding agency of certain things and the progress. Evaluating viability, right? So you can evaluate the viability of the feasibility and viability of the technology being developed, and informing decisions, so you can make the informed decision about investment and funding. So let's consider a startup developing the novel innovative idea for renewable energy solution, right? So by using the TRL framework, startup can identify that the technology is at TRL 3 right now, proof of concept. He wants to apply for the fund, grant, or the private funding, right? So he identified that the technology, this thing is at, yeah. So he can identify that what level, what TRL level my technology or my concept is at, right? My idea is at. Then he or she can allocate the proper resources, right? So the proper resource allocation can be done after I identify the TRL level, right? he or she also can set the milestone to reach from TRL 3 to 4 or 5 or 6, right? That within 3 months, I want to reach from TRL 3 to 5, right? So 3 months में मुझे ये जो proof of concept से MVP तक जाना है, right? Entrepreneur also can communicate the progress to investors, right? Highlighting this transition from TRL 3 to 4 or 4 to 5 or 5 to 6 and the timeline, give the timeline also, right? And secure additional funding that to reach from 5 to 6, I will need this funding. So if you can provide this funding, it would be a great, right? It will help us in developing the technology or developing the solution within the time and budget, right? So it is a structured approach for managing the development of the innovation, new technology, and it will help us in completing the project on time, within the budget, and with reduced risk or with calculated risk. Right? You can have the risk. You can have a mitigation plan for the risk that you have identified early in the process. So if we talk about the assessment process of the TRL, there are certain steps or there are certain aspects that you need to keep in mind. First is you need to define the TRL criteria. So as I said, at every level, there are specific criteria. So we need to clearly outline the criteria for each TRL. Then collect the experimental data and test result, right? So gather the evidences for your technology, for your concept, for your principles that you have identified, right? Review that evidences by the SMEs, subject matter expert, right? To provide you certain more clarity. Independent review, then you also conduct the independent review. Update and document every time, right? Whatever you are doing, you update that and document it. So you can have that look at the KPIs and progress report. You perform the gap analysis wherever the gap is, right? Wherever you are getting the feedback and suggestions or some queries, right? You can have the gap analysis and uh, fulfill the the requirements, right? Or identify any discrepancies. And communicate the results, right? So you can communicate the results to the stakeholder and have the feedback. So these are the common process or steps for the assessment of the TRL. Now we always talk about this value of death in the startup ecosystem. So if we look at the TRL 9, the 9 level of the TRL, till the development stage, right? It is TRL 4 to 5, where academia, universities, and government grant agencies are interested or they are providing the funding. So initially, MVP product launch tak funding milta hai, right? And private investors or private companies, the multinational companies, are focused on TRL 7, 8, and 9, where they identify the commercialization. So in between that, to develop that prototype into a commercial product, right? There are no funding available mostly, right? Nowadays, there are few VCs are coming down with certain fund or few angel investments are available. But this is the funding gap, which is we call value of death. So to merge or to minimize this value of death, we need a collaboration between university, academia with the industry partners, right? And that is more important for us as a student, as a startup, or as an incubation cell, right? Or as an incubation manager to merge that gap by collaboration. So collaboration is very much important in this TRL aspect, right? Or achieving the commercialization and tech transfer. Now, after understanding the TRL, let's talk about the tech transfer, technology transfer, and commercialization. So technology transfer is the process of moving the research discoveries into practical application. What does that mean? Right? So if I have developed certain innovation, I don't want to be into the business, not into going into the manufacturing. What I'll do is I'll transfer my technology. So technology transfer is the process of moving or transferring my research, scientific research or innovation from laboratory टू एक्सटर्नल एंटिटीज। तो मैं किसी एक्सटर्नल एंटिटीज को, ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को या कंपनी को मेरा जो टेक्नोलॉजी है वो मूव करूंगा, ट्रांसफर करूंगा, राइट, विच इज कॉल्ड लाइसेंसिंग, right? Which involves universities, startups, investors, and industries. Need collaboration between these stakeholders, right? So, this technology transfer is also very much important for us to understand because it helps us bridging the gap between academia and industry by fostering this innovation and entrepreneurship ecosystem, right? So it is helping us because when you have that collaboration, when you have that technology transfer offices, right, at your university, it helps us in bridging the gap between academia and industry, bridging the gap between lab technology to commercialized technology, right? So technology transfer has certain models. There are mainly three models that we follow. One is licensing through the agreements. So you license your patent and IP to the company. Second is startups, creating a startups or spin-off technology, right? Which is where faculties and students are creating the startups. And third is a joint venture, right? So university can partner with the private company having a joint venture, right? So what are the role of technology transfer offices, TTOs, right, and the incubators, incubation centers? So most of the incubators, right, are not doing this, but they are meant to have these services, right, technology transfer. But as in India, there are many incubators which are at very early stage of their development. I mean, at a very early stage of the developing stage, right? That is where they are not having this tech transfer office. So certain IITs like IIT Bombay, IIT Madras, IIT Delhi, and some of the colleges and universities are having this tech transfer office. But what are the role of their these offices? They help startups and researchers file the patent and licensing. So you might have IP cell, they can do that. Connect startups and researchers with the industry partners. So when you have the industry collaborations, you can do that. And secure funding for the tech commercialization. So when you have a connection with the or have the network with the funding agencies or private investment funders, right? And which is where IP plays a very important role. Intellectual property is playing a very important role, right? By protecting your patent, by having the trademarks and copyright, and by following a certain innovation model, like you want to have the open source model where you are having a where you are inviting the ideas or inviting the suggestions and developing the innovations in the collaborations or partnership, or you just need to keep to yourself having a proprietary approaches, right? So this is where this technology transfer happen. Now if we look at the commercialization, right? So what is the commercialization of your lab technology? It is a similar concept, but little bit different, right? So the commercialization of a lab technology involves transforming this scientific research and innovations, which is developed in the laboratories, into marketable and commercial product and services, which help the society, which benefit the society, or which is developed by the people, right? So if you are commercializing, taking your lab technology to the market through product and service, it is called a commercialization. So commercialization happens after the tech transfer. Sometimes tech transfer doesn't happen. If you are developing your solution, if you have developed innovation, you are going to directly commercialize, right, where you start your own startup, right? So it is the integrated or goes hand in hand, both the concepts. So commercialization is the process of bringing a new product or service to the market, right? And why commercialization is important? It helps in transforming research into impactful solutions. So do not just keep your innovation in the research part or at the research level or in the research paper only. Let's take it to the market and create an impact. Generate revenues for the universities and startups. How it will generate? If startup is doing, of course it will help the startups to generate the revenue. But how university can leverage the commercialization or tech transfer is by patenting or having the percentage or equity, right, in the innovation. creating job opportunities and accelerate the economic growth of the nation. So if we look at the this company called Ether Energy, right? The development and evolution of the Ether Energy, which is IIT Madras backed startup, electric mobility startup, right? So how did this academic research turn into a successful EV startup? And recently they reached to the unicorn status, right? Having a 1.3 billion valuation, and getting funding from NIF and many other institutions. Even IIT Madras has funded them. So I think Hero Motocorp also funded 900 crore to Ether Energy. So IIT Madras has provided them the lab setup, provided the initial funding, and helped them in making the commercialization or technology transfer, helping them into networking with the industry and funding agencies, right? So this is how we can commercialize our solution or product. So if you look at the differences, as I said, commercialization and technology transfer are the related concept. They are the same, but they are little bit different, right? They are relevant concept, but they are little bit different. So if you look at the tech transfer, as I said, it is the process of transforming your research, your innovation to external entities like companies or other organizations for further development, and they can commercialize, right? You are licensing to them. Whereas commercialization is by yourself or by someone, it is commercialized into the market, marketable solution, marketable product. So in the tech transfer, the focus is primarily on transferring knowledge and IP, right? Whereas in commercialization, the focus is on entire process of developing, producing, marketing, selling, and taking it to the market. The goal is to into the tech transfer, the goal is to bridge the gap between academic research and practical application, whereas here the commercialization goal is to making money and revenue generating. Technology transfer, if we look at the scope of both of these, technology transfer is transferring IP and technology from research institute to industry, whereas commercialization is the entire process of bringing the product to the market. Who are involved into technology transfer? It is technology transfer office, research institutes, and industry partner. Whereas commercialization is a again lengthy process, broader range of activities involved. So creating, developing, production, marketing, sales, all the people or stakeholders are involved, right? So these are the certain differences that we can understand. Now, if we look at the example to just understand these two terminologies. So technology transfer, for example, a university is developing or researcher is developing a new drug, right, with potential therapeutic benefit. Now this university's office will transfer the patents, first acquire the patent and then transfer the patents by licensing to the pharmaceutical company for further development and clinical trial, because you might not have at university level, we might not have a development facilities and clinical trials facilities, right? That is why we need to collaborate with the pharmaceutical company, right? Whereas the commercialization happens when this pharmaceutical company conducts this clinical trial, right? They will get the regulatory approval, certain certifications. They will scale up the production, market the drug, and sell it to the healthcare providers and patient, right? Which is where commercialization happen, right? So technological transfer, the very important aspect in technology transfer is getting the IP or patent on your name. Otherwise, it will be very dicey situation, right? So that is why if you are considering technology transfer, first you need to apply for the patent for the IP, right? So what are the steps in both of these process? As the process are little bit similar, right? It is having a common steps. So first is a market research. So you identify the market demand, target audience, who are your target audience, what is the competition, right? So competitive analysis. Then we have the idea generation as we move on to the ideation process or innovation process. Then we have the proof of concept, prototype development, right? MVP, creating a business plan, business model, get the funding and resources, regulatory approvals and compliances, right? Then production and marketing and sales, right? And post market support, right? Post launching support. So again, this is the entire entrepreneurial journey. So commercialization involves the entire entrepreneurial journey. It is not just after developing the product you are just taking it to the market. It's a part of the commercialization process, right? Which is the funding, regulatory approval, production. But before that, going from market research, idea generation, developing a prototype to developing a business plan is also part of commercialization of the product or service. So what are the factors needs to be considered in this? First is a market demand, whether there is a market demand or not, whether there is a desirability or not, right? First of all, we need to understand that whether there is a desirability, there is a market demand, there is a market gap, right? Or there is a enough demand or not. Then competitive landscape, analyze the competition and identify USP. Regulatory requirements, what are the regulatory requirements or compliances are there, and whether we can comply to that regulatory requirements or not. Then achieving the patents, I mean filing the patent and having the patent, intellectual property, protecting your technology, scalability aspect, cost and pricing, right? So cost and pricing strategy is very important role in the commercialization. Otherwise, very good product or very good service, very good innovation can fail, right? And finally, customer feedback is also very much important to consider, because if you are neglecting the feedback from the customers or your stakeholders, right, you miss the train, you miss the bus, right? And you even if there is a good opportunity, there is a good product that you have developed, if you are not listening to feedback and iterating based on the feedback, you are going to fail. So there are various challenges and bottleneck in commercialization and tech transfer. Very first is a lack of industry connection, right? Normally in the university and academia, we are lacking the industry connection, which is required for tech transfer and commercialization. Funding gaps, right? So we are not having the connections, or we are not networking with the funding agencies, right? So securing enough funding can be very challenging for the early stage startup, because for the early stage startup, government grants are there, but many of the time it is not enough, right? And there is a funding gap between TRL 5 to 7, or even you can say MVP to maturity stage, and that is where for early stage startup it is very challenging. Product market fit is very challenging if you are not having a thoroughly research your technology or your innovation. So अगर आपने वो research पहले नहीं किया है, if you haven't identified the market needs, requirement or users demand or desirability, you are going to fail even if you have a great innovation, right? Regulatory hurdles, right, which is very complex, time consuming and costly many times. IP protection issues, right, and scalability aspect. So if we cannot scale, if we haven't developed the innovative business model which is scalable and impactful, it is also challenging in the commercialization process. So what is the goal? The goal is fail fast, fail safe, and fail cheap, right? So as a concluding remarks, I would say that you always need to fail fast, fail safe, and fail cheap, because we always say that failed experiments are always better than the failed businesses. We can't wait till TRL 9 and launch the product without iterating and creating a prototype. And that is why understanding each level criteria of the TRL and then for the commercialization and tech transfer is very much important. So prototyping and testing before we move to the next step is very much important. So we don't get innovation at a gunpoint. Innovation is a continuous process. It can be learned, it can be developed, right? Because it is not 1 plus 1 is equal to 2 kind of formula. It is intuitive process, creative process, right? So you need to apply innovation and tools and techniques and framework regularly for every project, and you will learn the innovation, or you can then be able to innovate something. So it is not a at a gunpoint. I cannot give you a pill or injection of the innovation and you can start innovating, right? It is a continuous process. You need to put effort and hard work to achieve it. Now, as a startup, your plan might be in 2 years, I will reach from A to B, but there are many hurdles, right? So there are many hurdles in commercialization, tech transfer, understanding TRL, understanding the process, understanding the nitty-gritty of the innovation development process helps you and your team and your co-founder to navigate through the entire journey, right? So your enterprise one or two idea may fail, but as an entrepreneur you don't fail if you develop mindset, attitude and skill. It is very much important to develop the mindset, attitude and skill for an entrepreneur or innovator, right? So what is the right time to start your startup? Those who are considering to start startup, when you have a right team, right idea, right market, or right execution plan, execution strategy, right? But I would give you one final advice is there is no right time. You just need to start. So just start. Everything will fall into the place. All kinds of support will be available to you. All kinds of needs and requirement will be fulfilled. Right? There is an entire ecosystem developed in India. सो अभी बहुत अच्छा एक इकोसिस्टम डेवलप हो गया है इनोवेशन और एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप के लिए, राइट? ग्रांट आर अवेलेबल, so there are more than 10,000 crores of funds are available, right? More than 1 lakh startups are being registered, almost 1.5 lakh, right? There is a mentors, there are industry experts or industry connections, right? Networks, private and government funding agencies are available. So all kinds of support will be helpful, will be available to you if you just start, right? You just need to have that passion. You just need to have that, fire in your belly कि मुझे ये करना ही है कैसे भी करके, या मुझे ये टेक्नोलॉजी या ये जो इनोवेशन है, आइडिया है, मुझे कन्वर्ट करना है, कमर्शलाइज करना है. इफ यू हैव दैट passion and will, everything will fall into the place, right? So with that I would stop here, taking 5 minutes more, but of course you can connect with us on our WhatsApp group and follow us on our LinkedIn or Facebook, Instagram page. So kindly scan this and connect with us if you want some more details, some more guidance. Yeah. So thank you very much, everyone, for quietly listening to me. Though it is 1 hour, I have tried my best to provide you the basic details around innovation, TRL, tech transfer, and commercialization. Uh, of course, it would be if it would be a more time given, then we can have certain hands-on things where we can develop the assess the TRL on your own idea or project or a startup. We can have the commercialization plan developed. We can have business model plan developed. So maybe in a workshop kind of mode, we can do that. So yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all.
Yes, thank you, Bihola sir, for such an elaborative session onto innovation development, which was discussed very, very creatively. Okay, so it was a very good discussion. The innovation development process is what I found very interesting, which was described very extensively. With the technology readiness level also, the TRL, which you explained, the concept new to us, at least for me, which was also explained extensively. So I thank you once again for such an elaborative session and seeking your help also in for the coming sessions also. So
Sure,
thank you once again.
sure. I would be very grateful.
So I move on now, introducing another expert, which is an in-house expert with us, Dr. Yogesh Velankar, who has earned a PhD degree in engineering education from Purdue University, US. A unique and a first of its kind of doctoral program in the world. I think both of you all know each other, so that smile conveys a lot of meaning to me. So really great to have both of us, both of you all here onto this platform. Yogesh Velankar, Dr. Yogesh Velankar holds a MS in Electrical Engineering and even a MA in Mathematics Education as an instructional specialist both from the University of Texas, US. He's also a BA, that is the BE in Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from Mumbai University, India. And Dr. Valenkar has also held high school mathematics teacher certificate in the US and a Sigma Green belt holder. Dr. Valenkar is also an AICTE, that is All India Council of Technical Education, empaneled expert of India's National Education Policy, NEP 2020. AICTE is also nominated, has also nominated Dr. Valenkar as an Margadarshak, that is a mentor, with an aim to mentor and enable technical education institutes to achieve accreditation by the NBA, that is National Board of Accreditation, and enhance the quality of technical education. We have got a lot of pride saying that presently Dr. Yogesh Valenkar is a professor and director of Symbiosis Institute of Staff Training and Professional Development. So let us welcome Dr. Valenkar for guiding us and taking this session further.
Yes.
So I give the host rights to Sir.
Thank you, Dr. Uttara, and I
Yes.
hope I'm audible and visible to all of you.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Thank you for that wonderful introduction, and it's my great privilege to share the platform with Mr. Bihola ji, whom I have interacted with and worked with very closely over a number of years. And it was a wonderful session, as you said, giving us an overview of the entire innovation journey from ideation stage as to going all the way up to commercialization and some of the things in between. So thank you, Bihola ji, for enlightening the participants, and I would like to take the discussion forward, building upon what you have just described and sharing a few insights into this entire innovation journey, going from ideation to commercialization and some of the aspects in between. Before I proceed, if I may just ask, one question for the benefit of our participants to Mr. Bihola. My query was around the TRL levels. I'm curious to know whether these are applicable for social process innovations or they are only applicable for technology-oriented products and services.
Yeah. So, social processes innovation, where if it is completely on the process or existing thing, applying to a social cause, where we are just implementing the idea for the mass level, for the social benefits, then it might not be directly applicable where we are assessing the TRL, because TRL is helping us to understand what is the maturity level of the technology in the development process. And if we are not developing any technology, if we are not developing any process, right, if we are not developing any principles or in that sense engineering aspect, then it is not directly applicable. For example, that solar light, right, which is developed by someone into the Africa, now implemented into India. So at this level, the TRL will not be helpful, but technology transfer and commercialization will be helpful to us, right? So because at TRL level, we are not evaluating or assessing various criterias and certain pointers, certain factors. So it is not directly applicable. But if in the social innovation, social process development, if we are innovating something, if we are modifying something, and the technology is involved, then it is of course needs to be integrated. Yeah.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And I encourage all our participants to, keep this in mind as you embark upon exploring new ideas on different aspects of innovation in different domain areas. So we have, as Mr. Bihola has explained, currently the ecosystem in our nation is quite ripe for these kind of ideas to come forward from all quarters. It's not limited to any particular one entity or one institution or one region, geography, or any particular socio-economic situations that people are in. So these kind of innovative ideas come from anywhere, anytime, and we just need the right set of conditions to come together. And what Mr. Bihola has explained is just to get started without a lot of overthinking as to what is going to happen, when is it going to happen, how are the things going to fall in place. The idea is to get started. So in that context, I would like to share my screen and just give me a minute here. Dr. Uttara, I think I'm still getting the error on the screen sharing.
Dr. Bihola, can you please give the screen, the host rights to Dr. Velankar?
Yeah.
I request you to do that.
Yes, I can now have the host privileges. So
Thank you, Bihola sir. Thank you for doing that.
Thank you. So I just want to, take one example, just taking the discussion forward. Now I think you can see my screen, right?
Yes, please.
So, yes, this is an example from biotechnology, and I just wanted to bring some context to the TRL levels. We saw one example of electrical vehicle technology, very well explained. But let's just, go through this process once more. In the realm of biotechnology, if we are dealing with any drug discovery or, any new drug development in the pharmaceutical space, what does this TRL level actually look like? So let's look at this definition. Again, this is developed by BIRAC and as a great example of what it takes for scientific research to come from the laboratory, from the universities or the research labs, all the way up to the market and the final consumers, right? So if you look at it, the ideation phase, TRL1, where basic principles, scientific research gets started into the developmental phase. TRL2 in this case, we can call it as proof of principles. So the ideas are developed, hypotheses are formulated, and protocols are developed, right? So a lot of studies are taking place in the laboratory still. TRL3, the next stage is proof of concept is demonstrated, hypothesis testing, and efficacy studies, right? So a lot of animal-based studies or these kind of studies take place in the laboratory in controlled environments, and the results are captured, experimentation is done, and all kinds of documentation takes place here, right? With that, this kind of drug discovery goes to the next stage. Again, this is an elaborate process. So all the steps are carefully monitored, proof of concept, safety of candidate, any kind of, adverse effects, all those kind of things are evaluated in TRL4. Now, TRL 5 and 6 was what we call as early stage validation. So this is where the preclinical studies are, taking place. Phase 1 trial and phase 2 clinical trials. This is where the regulatory bodies, the government, agencies responsible for ensuring the safety of patients. They come into the picture, professional bodies and the approvals have to be received at this particular stage, that there are no adverse effects for the intended audience. So this is the early stage validation. And in this case, you may have seen many of the drug manufacturing companies recruit participants for these kind of clinical trials. See, for example, if there is a new, let's say a cancer treatment drug on the market, right? And this technology is untested, but there are, if it is going through TRL 5 or 6, they do need volunteers at this stage, right? So how does that work? So volunteers are recruited, they are signing their informed consents. They understand that they are taking a risk, that this is not, fully validated yet, but they are contributing to scientific research and development, understanding the risks completely, right? So there are these kind of preclinical studies that do take place. Data is collected, again monitored over a period of time. Adverse effects, side effects are measured, and then they are resolved once again, if required, going back to the drawing board. And finally, it goes to TRL 7, where again phase 2 and phase 3 clinical trials are getting, plans are approved, and then going to the pre-commercialization stage with the new drug application, commercial manufacturing licenses are transferred at this point in time. If it's a R&D lab or if it's a university innovation ecosystem, they are partnering with the industry, pharmaceutical manufacturers, and it is now ripe for market introduction. So this is where the final TRL 9 commercialization is actually implemented. The new drug is launched, and even after the new drug is launched, for a long time, post-marketing studies are also done. Now, even though we are following this entire process, taking this example of drugs and pharmaceutical products in the market, you may have seen that many a times for some cases, even after a particular medical product is on the market for a long time, it is only after a longitudinal period of time. Longitudinal means, let's say, years of actually usage, certain adverse effects are noticed in patients, side effects, unwanted effects, right? It might be treating a particular ailment, but at the same time, it might be causing a different ailment. So this ongoing monitoring is very, very essential in this case, because unless people start using it for a long period of time, those long-term effects of a particular product are unknown, especially in the biomedical domain. So having said that, in case these kind of new discoveries come to light at a later stage, then of course the manufacturer has to recall the product, has to really, make sure that any adverse effects are being taken care of. Sometimes there are lawsuits and whatnot, right? So one has to be, it's not that anybody is purposefully doing such kind of things, but these kind of things also happen over a period of time. And the manufacturer or the innovator or the entrepreneur, whenever you have started a business, you've gone to that particular stage, you need to be mindful of continuous customer inputs, feedback, so that you can continuously improve your products and services. So that is very, very crucial, especially when you're dealing with human life. All right, now going to the further discussion, just share my presentation. Are you able to see my screen now? Yes. All right. So continuing the conversation around, specific aspects of what are some of the challenges in commercialization of this technology. Already Mr. Bihola touched upon many challenges that entrepreneurs might face, but I just want to elaborate on a few more of them. So the first point, very, very commonly seen in the university ecosystem, when especially we are talking about the interface of university, government, and industry partnerships, is the mindset of researchers. And typically, this also goes back to how researchers are evaluated in their work, because a lot of emphasis is being currently being put on publications of research articles and not really too much on the commercialization of the research outputs. So the mindset of researchers typically in the university setup might be, let's publish the scientific research into top journals or, present them in conferences and so on and so forth. But they are not really thinking about how to convert their ideas into a viable product, into a feasible product, to take it to the market for the benefit of society and the benefit of consumers. So this mindset, to some extent, is also a function of the policies that are existent in the higher education ecosystem. But slowly things are changing. So definitely there is scope for the mindset of researchers to be transformed. In fact, there are certain university, ecosystems who are also now rewarding and recognizing product development and innovations as an output of scholarly work. So, for example, typically, when you are pursuing a PhD program, you might be expected to develop, new theoretical insights, or you might be expected to develop, write a thesis document and so on, but and publish a lot of papers along the way. But nowadays, certain university ecosystems are also rewarding or recognizing the efforts of early career researchers who are pursuing their doctoral degrees, that if they launch a particular startup or if they develop a particular product which is fit for commercialization, even that can qualify as equivalent to being a doctoral level of work being completed. So that also can qualify them to get a doctoral degree. So such kind of changes in policies and procedures are coming about, and that can definitely further kickstart or jumpstart the innovation ecosystem in our nation and across the world. So this is also very very important factor. Then again, if you are going to develop these ideas in a vacuum, not really having a feel for what the societal issues are. So we have a lot of social challenges, grand challenges across the world in multiple domains, whether it is healthcare, whether it's agriculture, whether it is, education. So there are a lot of issues. And if you have your eyes and ears on the ground, that what exactly are the challenges faced by the people, uh, in our earlier conversation, our speaker also mentioned about human-centric design approach. So if you have that kind of a human-centric design approach, you will be able to understand and really gauge what are the social causes, what are the social issues, and you can structure your ideas or structure your innovations based around addressing some of those ground level challenges, right? Sometimes there is an overestimation of consumer demand. So, if the market is already saturated with a lot of competition, then you are sometimes ending up overestimating the consumer demand. So that could be another challenge when you're trying to bring your new technology to the market. Then again, sometimes success or stability might take a little bit more time with any kind of new product and service. So if there is too much focus on short-term goals, quarter to quarter, are you making profits? You really want to bring value to your future shareholders, right? You really want to have your company around, uh, for a long, long time, and you would like to have a long-term view while also looking at the short-term goals. So don't just focus, don't be short-sighted, just have that in mind. Now, with reference to having the skilled support system, still, I would say that there is shortage of all the supporting ecosystems. You need a lot of, it's a teamwork, right? You're not doing it alone. So if you have the support of the IP professionals, the legal service professionals, advisors in company formations, you may not be knowing of all such kind of nitty-gritty of what is involved. So you really need access to this kind of expertise and innovation cells in institutions, technology transfer officers. They can really catalyze this kind of ecosystem and bring it to you, offer their products and services to make life easy for you. So that kind of incubation facility, if you are, part of such kind of incubation facility, you can get access to these kind of services, which can be very complementary to your product development. Sometimes the market, is very scattered. You're not, really hitting the target. Supply chain development, you need a very robust supply chain for ensuring your manufacturing process is streamlined. Technology validation, we have talked about that, going through various TRL levels, ensuring that things are in place. And after sales services, recently I can take the example of one of the EV manufacturers. You must have all seen on the social media, and a lot of discussion was going on that a lot of customer complaints were coming with the electric two-wheeler manufacturer, and their the repairs and the garages were full of products that were returned back for repairs. So you really need to have a good after sales service model so that any kind of consumer complaints can be addressed in a timely fashion. Again, infrastructure is very essential. If you do not have that, that can be another big challenge. And sometimes it's just bad timing, or inexperience. So a lot of, we recently had the pandemic, COVID-19, everyone was affected, all kinds of products, all kinds of, business models were disrupted. So sometimes it might just be a bad timing, it has nothing to do with you, or, it's just the socio-economic conditions or the political environment, or the kind of, stability around the world, macro and microeconomic conditions. It might be a range of issues even beyond your control. So it might just be a bad time for your product. And sometimes the founders, if they don't have that kind of a commitment, or if the team is not really committed to that kind of a vision, then again, it can be a big challenge. And finally, funding support is very, very crucial. Lack of funding, we talked about the value of debt. I think it's a very valid point. We have to be very watchful to really overcome any kind of hurdles or barriers along the way, and be very, very proactive in seeking the right kind of funding support for your ideas to actually come into practice. Having said that, I would like to touch upon, some of the government initiatives for funding support. I don't know how many of you are familiar, but the government of India has constituted this technology development board. It's under the Department of Science and Technology, way back in 1996. And its main objective is to commercialize indigenous research, right? So they offer a lot of supports ecosystem, especially to promote indigenous research and development initiatives pan-India. So let's look at, some of the aspects. You might be wondering, where do I get started? Where am I going to get that eureka moment? One way to look at it is, what are the kinds of projects that get funded by different kinds of agencies? This is one very important funding agency that you can explore, the Technology Development Board. So let's touch upon this funding aspects, right? Let's look into the kinds of projects that the funding bodies are interested in. So whenever you are thinking of development and commercialization of a new product through indigenous technology, that is definitely of interest, especially in our national context. Or you can look at existing improvements in a product or a service that is already there. Let's say the solar, the African continent into the Indian context. Now, if this is an existing product, let's say a solar bulb, right? And if you want to make any improvements in that, it's an existing product, but you are going to make some improvements. Let's say, you are going to make it more long lasting, or more maintenance free, or, you might have a unique situation where there is a lot of dust or any kind of environmental conditions which are hampering the operations of this solar electric product. And you are going to come up with some innovation which is going to prevent that. So it could be anything of that sort is also applicable. You can also think about those kind of aspects in order to take up new products development. So again, substantial quality upgradation or reduced energy consumption, if you're going to reduce the cost, improved competitiveness, ergonomics. So it could be improvements in any of the existing materials, right? Or in the healthcare domain, if you're going to deploy technology, any design innovations are going to come in. Those are also, looked very favorably by the funding agencies. Then again, environmentally, if you're going to come up with any kind of products and services which are going to be environment friendly, let's say biodegradable products or anything that will get a lot of attention from funding agencies. Again, any judiciary products or anything to do with the export markets. And finally, if you want to really expand the scope for a wider domestic application, let's say it's only in a particular region of the nation, particular innovation is in place, but you really would see the potential to expand it to all parts of the nation or the international markets, definitely that kind of product and service will get a lot of attention from funding bodies, right? Or if you want to reduce the cost. Let's say, there are certain products where we are importing right now the particular materials, but if you come up with a substitute material, which is indigenously manufactured or indigenously available, then again, that could be a great innovation for you to consider. And again, energy sector also, a lot of opportunities. Biomedical equipments and devices. Again, big pharma is coming up with a lot of products. You've heard of generic application, especially after the expiry of that kind of patents or licenses. So alternative medication, also there is a lot of scope, a lot of scientific research and development can go into that aspect. And you have a lot of opportunity in that space also. Waste management, of course, a very big area. If you have some new ideas of recycling, reuse, repurposing, again, that is an area which will get a lot of funding opportunities, right? Now, finally, you can do a little bit of self-evaluation. If you are going to submit your proposal for funding agencies, what are the evaluation criteria typically being used, right? This is especially from the Technology Development Board. But for any funding agency, they typically look at these kind of criteria wherein you yourself can do a evaluation whether it fits the bill or not, right? So, of course, your proposal needs to be of scientific merit, technological merit, and it needs to be logical. The benefits have to be clearly applicable, and you should be able to demonstrate that what is the purpose, how it can benefit a particular set of consumers, especially if you go for commercialization. And you have to demonstrate that your approach is necessary as well as sufficient. So there should be no loose ends in your proposal when you are actually applying for funding agencies. Then the particular institution where you are affiliated with, let's say you're a university student or you're part of some R&D laboratories, then that institution should also have that kind of provisions. As I said earlier, maybe there is lack of infrastructure or those kind of challenges. You really need to show that, yes, you can do the work if you get the money, right? So you really need to demonstrate that. Again, the capability of the enterprise and the reasonableness of the financing patterns. So it should not be, it should be appropriate to the kind of product or service that is proposed. It should not be, something just totally random numbers, but it should be very much justifiable. That breakdown has to be really justifiable. And as with any good project management plan, you really need to demonstrate what would be the timeline, what would be the scope of work, what kind of intermediate targets you are going to meet. If it's going to be certain, TRL levels, then you can demonstrate the timelines that you have estimated, any challenges along the way and how you are going to overcome them. All such kind of information needs to be demonstrated in your proposal to make it a winning proposal. And of course, if you are getting started, if you have a great team, committed team, that kind of is also taken into consideration when proposals are evaluated. And the funding agency, they may also do an on-site visit to make sure that whatever you have said in your proposal, those conditions really exist on the ground, and you will be capable of actually taking up such kind of a project. So that also you need to be prepared for. Finally, I also want to draw your attention to another important DST agency. It's called TIFAC. So TIFAC is another autonomous body, more than 30 plus years in operation. They very famously come up with their technology forecasting reports. I think the last one was Technology Forecast Report 2035. So if you really want to look at what are the emerging trends, what are the emerging patterns, what are the kind of new technologies that are going to be shaping the the operations and the way the world is going to come up with new opportunities, this kind of a technology forecasting exercise, if you look into such kind of reports which is being put together by the brightest minds and the think tanks of the world, you can get a good indication of where the innovation journeys is going to be more appropriate. So you also need to have that kind of a market perspective as to where the technology might evolve and where you can start making a contribution. So TIFAC is a great resource, as you can see, whether you are a student, whether you are a young entrepreneur, whether, you are an academic institution, they can also help you with a lot of evaluation and assessment of your ideas. And they can also help you to connect with the entire innovation ecosystem. So definitely you can make use of that and approach this government body. They are there for us. And similarly, a lot of other programs and services, initiatives are being launched. So just keep a lookout on these kind of opportunities. And having said that, I would welcome any questions or comments from the participants. But just once again, thank you for your patient listening. And it's been a privilege to share the platform with Mr. Bihola ji, who's established entrepreneur himself. And he's been guiding and mentoring students and participants from across the nation and across the world. Definitely, it was my privilege. And thank you once again to Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning and the Institution Innovation Council for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with the participants. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Velankar sir, for throwing insights first of all onto the beginning of your discussion onto the levels of TRL, that too with an example. And further, I'd like to even thank Dr. Velankar sir for sharing information onto funding aspects with reference to innovation, where many of us, we really don't know any of these governmental bodies who help onto the funding aspects. So thank you once again. And thank you, Bihola sir, also for being with us and discussing onto innovation and design thinking. Further on to this note, I would like to ask if there are any questions from the participants' side. Any questions, please? Yes, so I don't think so there are any questions. We are left with many questions in our mind onto the topic. So we give everyone a chance to first settle down with the new information which we have received today through this webinar. So thank you everyone for participating on behalf of Symbiosis Center for Distance Learning. Thank you once again.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good. Thank you.
Velankar sir, you can keep the meeting as you can leave the meeting because presently you are the host.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So shall I end the meeting for everyone?
Yes, yes.
Okay.